The Houston Rockets had a strong end of the season last year, finishing at 41-41, barely missing the playoffs. But can their young talent pull through this year to get them to the playoffs? Now, I want to talk about who their best player is. Because for one, Jalen Green was a higher draft pick, more well-known, has a higher ceiling. But Alperen Sengun has been balling and was their leading scorer last year. Not to mention that in my eyes, Jalen Green didn't really make like a winning culture. Sengun came in and it was like, oh, this guy's like sleeper good. The fact that he can facilitate, he can shoot a little bit. He doesn't shoot a whole ton of like volume shots, he doesn't shoot a whole ton. But we also have the game against Wemby where he balled out, he was dishing, he had that one like behind the back pass. I mean, he's a baby Jokic. He's literally baby Jokic. So it's kind of like pick your poison where you got Jalen Green and Sengun. Like, who is your like main guy? For me, I think it's Sengun. Jalen Green did have like a crazy end of the season where he's dropping like 35 left and right, but I want to see that for an entire season. I mean, we got Sengun stats right here, and like, look at it. He averaged 21.1 points, rebounds. Yeah, nine rebounds, 5 assists. Not really like the most defensive guy you've ever seen in your life because he doesn't really do a whole bunch of blocking and stuff, but he's not a main defender, right? He's only 21. It's pretty young. That's pretty young. The whole Rockets team is really young, but I mean, yeah, less than 30% on barely, not even 2 threes a game, so not a whole lot, but yeah, you could see his volume definitely increased from season to season, and so he showed out. Averaging 20 points as a 21-year-old is pretty good, especially when maybe you weren't the main focal point of your team for the majority of the season. And for those of you who didn't believe me that Alperen Sengun led the Rockets in scoring, Jalen Green right here, he averaged less at 19.6, right? So he's definitely a better shooter. Not by much. I mean, the volume's definitely there, but Jalen Green just seems like the guy. Jalen Green has that like superstar archetype where he's like 6'4", long, bouncy, he can shoot, shot create. I mean, I was a big fan of him in high school, but now that he's in the league, it's kind of like, where are we going with this kind of thing? Like LaMelo Ball syndrome, where it's like, hey, you're good, let's pick it up a little bit. Because I think that's why I picked Sengun as like their best player. Now, Sengun doesn't have to like backpack everyone and like go crazy and put them in the playoffs. They have a lot of young talent, and we're gonna talk about that in a sec. But real quick, past couple years, 2023 they ended 22-60. Last year they ended 41-41, so definitely jumped up. I mean, we see the volume from Sengun and Jalen Green, and it's a 20-plus win difference. I mean, that's not crazy, but they barely missed the playoffs. And this year they're projected to go above 500 at 44 and 38, according to a bunch of different sports books and stuff. But how's the lineup? How's the depth looking? Well, I think it's looking phenomenal. I mean, Fred VanVleet and Dillon Brooks were a phenomenal signing for this team. You got VanVleet, seasoned point guard. Dillon Brooks, he can shoot, play defense. Jalen Green, give him the ball, handle it. Jabari Smith Jr., I'm still waiting on that like leap. If he takes a leap, they could be a very scary team for a long time. If all of these guys take a leap, all the young guys really have a ton of potential. Then Sengun, we've already talked about, he's a baller right there, right? Off the bench, I mean, Ahmed Thompson, Reed Sheppard, 3rd pick in the draft for a team that barely missed the playoffs. And we'll talk about in a second, implications for him getting the team. I don't know why Amen Thompson's like listed twice at small forward. I think Cam Whitmore should be there. I don't know if this is even like legit, if like the team's like, hey, ESPN, here's our depth chart. But Cam Whitmore's definitely behind. That guy balled out. I love that guy. Tari Eason was hurt towards the end of the season there, but makes a great defensive impact. He's kind of like that Draymond, Tony Allen kind of player where he plays defense and maybe not like that great offensively, but brings the tenacity, brings the defense. Talk about defense and tenacity, bro. We got Steven Adams off the bench. Jock Landale's not bad either. Jeff Green, not bad. I mean, other guys are here. Jayshawn Tate, he's played a little bit and gets some minutes and stuff. Aaron Holiday, they have guys all over the roster. Like, the roster ends and I'm like, that all of them were good players. So they just don't have that like superstar max level player that you need to like just bulldoze some people in the West, where Luka just takes over games, Ant takes over games, Shea takes over games, Kawhi, Jokic, right? I'm crying about Kawhi because we'll talk about. I'm working on the Clippers video right now for later, but Jokic. So you get the point. That's why I talked about Sengun versus Green. Like, who is going to be that player for the Rockets? Because once they get that, they are in the upper echelon of teams in the West. I mean, are the Thunder really that like much further along than the Rockets are. You look at it, I don't know, like not really. Sure, they have experience, but and Shea and Chet are like leagues ahead of a lot of the guys on the Rockets, and that's kind of like the main deal. Jalen Williams is like, but the Rockets are just very watered down. Maybe like watered down and then watered down a little more, and that's where you got the Rockets from the Thunder. The young team, lot of depth, a lot of good talent all over the place. I'm excited to see how they turn out. Let's talk about Reed Sheppard for a sec, because Reed Sheppard came in the league, third pick. He's going to be great coming out of Kentucky. They got like player of the year, I think. I don't think he's going to have rookie of the year. I mean, look at all the guys he's got to compete on. He's not going to start because of so many guys on the roster. I would play Amen Thompson over him off the bench. I would play Cam Whitmore over him off the bench. Especially Cam Whitmore. And Cam Whitmore has been balling out. As you see right here, Cam Whitmore, rookie season, he's only 19. I forget about that, bro. 23 points, 4 rebounds, less than an assist. Just a solid guy to come off the bench. Is anybody who can give you 12 off the bench in how many minutes? 18, 19 minutes? Bro, started 2 games. They could have used him a lot more in the season. I mean, he was only played pretty much half the season, but 12 points on less than 10 shots. Not bad for a guy coming off the bench in his first year in the league. So I would give Cam Whitmore more playing time than Reed Sheppard. And I would also, if you're like, oh, well, they don't play the same position. Well, even then, I consider Amen Thompson a point guard, as I think a lot of people should. And even if Reed's a shooting guard, I still want Amen, Fred, and Jalen Green to have the ball in their hands more than Reed Sheppard. So it was a very interesting pickup at the 3. I mean, could you imagine if they would have gotten like Edie or someone like maybe Dillingham, who has he's a lot more dynamic. Reed Sheppard's pretty good. I'm not dissing on Reed. He's a baller, but it just seemed like an interesting pick where it's like, okay, you picked, I guess, the best guy on the board, but that's not really the draft to do it because the whole board kind of sucks. You see what I'm saying? So what will Reed Sheppard add? Not a rookie of the year. That's my pick. I mean, I don't even think it's close. I did a poll. I got a video coming out later towards the beginning of the season about it. But Reed Sheppard was nowhere near the top of that poll for rookie of the year. I mean, it was a lot of other guys. But moving on, how would this team get into the playoffs? Let's just look at the standings. So, okay, we got the big dogs, OKC, Denver, Minnesota, LA, Dallas, right, all this stuff. The Rockets are right here. So they would have to jump in and someone gets out. Now, here's my thing. I think there's going to be 3 teams that are going to jump in and have to jump out. The Spurs, let's talk about them a sec. The Grizzlies are 100% making the playoffs. Rockets are probably like next on that list. And then the Spurs, it could be close. They could be a play-in team. They're going to be a lot better than they were and have been. And those are just for teams that did not make the playoffs. Now, for people who won't make the playoffs next year, Kings, I mean, are you really that good? The Warriors, it depends on if Steph goes ballistic. I don't have a lot of faith in the Pelicans. I have faith in the Lakers because AD and LeBron is better than any duo here easily. Just in terms of pedigree, and it's LeBron. So you never count out LeBron. Don't try and do that. And I think these kind of stay the same, low-key. I mean, maybe Memphis goes in and dumps. My pick is Denver. We don't have to get into the whole Western Conference standings right now, but the Rockets, I'm just painting the picture for why it's such a hard thing to do to get into the playoffs in the West. You go 500 and you're the 11th seed. That's really hard. My verdict for the Rockets this year has to be pretenders. I mean, they're good, they're young, they're fun, they're exciting, they're explosive. There's so many good teams in the West, dude, and I don't think the top 6 I don't think it's going to budge at all. It's going to be stuck and solid. The play-in is a dangerous place to be, and then you can only be like the 7th or the 8th seed. So I don't think they'll make the playoffs, and even if they did, they're not contending because then they have to match up with either like the Thunder or the Timberwolves or the Mavericks. I just don't think it's going to be a good deal right now. But this year, they're not pretenders. I'm not talking about the rest of their forever. Maybe next year they're contenders. Who knows? Maybe they have a jump and go crazy next 2 years. But for right now, they're not contending. They are pretending, I guess, if we want to use it like that. I want them to make the playoffs, but at right now, there's just more questions than answers. So let me know what you guys think. I'm just very conflicted with this because I like the Rockets. I think they're a fun team. I think they've done pretty good after the James Harden era. So anyways, that's all I got for today. We out.